Good afternoon. Come on in. For those of you who are still standing, let's hustle and find a seat. We've got an incredible treat for you. The crazy man in the suit on stage. I'm Brad Behrens. I'm the Chief Content Officer here at AdTech. So let's do some real-time polling. Who's having a good time so far? Yeah. All right. That really is pitiful. Can we try that again? Who's having a good time so far? Yeah. All right. All right, I'm going to bring to the stage someone who, if you've been to AdTech before, you know. She's formerly the content chair for AdTech. She is the CEO of Personal Life Media, which is a publisher of extraordinary self-help content. She is the hostess of the best talk show in our industry, Dishy Mix. I'm privileged to have been one of her guests at one point. She also is the winner at AdTech San Francisco most recently of the Industry Achievement Award, and she is my friend. Let's give a big, warm AdTech welcome to Susan Bratton.
Thank you, baby. Hey, happy lunch, everybody. It's great to have you here. I'm going to bring up John Furey. John is the founder of the MindTime project. So give him a warm welcome. We're going to have a conversation for you at lunch. John. So here's the neat thing about the MindTime project. Wait till you hear this first question. What's interesting about the MindTime project is that you're going to be personally interested in this. This is going to be something you actually will be able to find out about yourself. It's also something that can serve you. In this half hour, you're going to learn something that will serve you in your relationships, both in your personal life and your professional life. And it's something that can apply to the work you do every day in communicating with your customers. That's a lot in a half an hour. So wait till you hear this first question. You're going to love the answer. John, what do you do?
Oh, God. I map the world of thinking.
He maps the world of thinking. That's an audacious thing to say. Like when someone asks you what you do as compared to I map the world of thinking, it's pretty grandiose. So we're going to try to break it down for you. Let's first talk about what a MindTime map is. You own a company that has created the technology that allows people to find out what their MindTime map is. It's a construct for thinking about how we think. So let's start there with the description.
Okay, so we all live in a physical world, and that physical world essentially allows us to understand the relationships between people. You're sitting there, and I'm sitting over here, and there's a few feet in between us. The fact of the matter is that we don't only live here in this physical world. We live in our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And Einstein said it very famously, not to overcomplicate it, but he says you cannot actually separate space, this stuff, from time. And what we discovered about 13 years ago was that, in fact, all of us go into time when we go into our heads and think. It's that little monkey that won't shut up. It's all off either in the future or in the past or in the present. And what we found out was that every single one of us blends these three, the construct, the future, the present, and the past, which is about possibility, probability, and certainty. And those three ideas actually drive our behaviors. They actually create the way that we think. So in the very same way that we're sat here, we are also sat in a map in our heads. Not actually in a map represents it. But we're sat somewhere in the world of thinking. And depending on the location on that map of the world of thinking, it tells us everything about how we then go engaging ourselves in the world.
So right now, every single one of you comes from a point on that continuum of past, present, and future. And each of us are on that point a little bit differently. We each have a blend of past, present, and future that is most likely the perspective that we engage our entire world from, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So you can find out what your MindTime map location is. And in understanding where you come from and where others around you come from, you can begin to relate to them in a more powerful way. So talk about the MindTime map survey and where, because everybody's digitally connected here.
That's
maybe
amazing, yes.
You'd like to take the survey. It takes about 3 minutes. You could even do it right now.
Yes, we created a special group for everyone here in the audience today, which you'll see the URLs up on the screen, I'm sure. So the location in the MindTime map, really, it speaks to how do you blend these three things: possibility, probability, and certainty. So my particular blend, if you will, the way I think, the way I see the world, perceive it, engage with it, is all about possibility. So while someone else...
Because you're a future thinker.
Because I'm a future thinker. Now, and there's no better or worse than this. I must point that out. So our chief scientist, for example, Vince, Dr. Vincent Fortunato, he's a very strong past thinker. So where I come off and go like, I have this idea, he sits there quietly and he looks at me and he gets all worried for a while.
And he's looking for data points.
He is looking
and
for data
historical
points.
references.
Absolutely.
Because he bases his decisions now on the past.
And more importantly,
experience.
he knows not to expect me to actually come to the table with those. So the relationship's wonderful.
Right, so he doesn't get mad or frustrated at your vision
Bingo.
for being a future thinker because he understands that about you.
Right, and I don't get frustrated at him that he takes half an hour to explain something that was really quite simple. So it works both ways. It works both ways.
Oh yeah, been there, done that. So can you see the URL and go there and take it? Has anybody taken it so far? Great, a lot of you have.
Yeah.
Can you go to that slide where we show
Absolutely.
the group? So here's what it looks like. Describe what they see.
Well, what we did is right before we came on stage is we actually identified the dots and gave them colors. So the blue dots you see on the screen, those are the males in the audience, and the red dots are the females in the audience, and the golden dots are the undecideds, which is really worrying because there's an awful lot of you out there who are undecided whether you're male or female. It's true.
Yeah, this is New York at Tech. This is not San Francisco.
I know. That's why I was worried. Things spread across the country. Anyway, thanks, love. The point is that what this map is actually showing us is a distribution of this particular audience, and you could be a consumer audience of a brand, you could be a college, students within a college, you could be an organization. But this map allows us to actually locate people in that world of thinking and to understand the relative difference between one person's thinking and another person's. Now, what's wonderful about it is this. You can understand your own thinking by seeing where you land on that map, but an organization actually is a collection of thinking that can be understood with exactly the same language and exactly the same map. So we're able to actually look at a map like this, and for this particular crowd, I'll tell you that there's a lot of innovation in this crowd. There's a fair amount of need for information. That's that certainty thing in the bottom left-hand side. And the thing that's surprising, and maybe not surprising, is there's not a whole heck of a lot of follow-through on that sort of probability scale. In other words, a lot of people here will understand stuff really fundamentally. They'll see the possibilities, but this is not the group that's going to go off and actually get it done.
Well, we talked about that, John. So what you're looking at is that we have a lack of implementers in our industry, right? So we've got the people who can pull the data, and we've got the people who can think the big ideas to create the companies in digital media. But what we haven't yet done is scale our industry with those implementers. We're some of our biggest constraints are hiring talent to get the job done and finding those people who have enough experience in digital, but who can also manage the day-to-day work and implementation, those present people. So talk a little bit about how you apply this MindTime concept to a collaborative team, as a leader of a team or someone who's managing an organization. Give us an example of that.
Yeah, I will. And in fact, I'm going to use an example from the industry. And I must say, I'm not from the marketing and advertising industry. We have partners in the industry, a lovely little company called Telepathy. And what I can tell you about is we started looking at your industry, and we started mapping it. So first off, we started looking at 5 independent agencies scattered around the United States, and we created maps of those. And we saw something very, very curious.
Wait, you did 5 independent agencies?
And we mapped
You
them.
mapped all the people in 5 different agencies?
Yes, and we compared them. And we looked at how were they succeeding and not succeeding. And then we learned a little bit more about the industry, and we learned that actually traditionally in advertising, there had been these creative shops that were then bought by holding companies that would wrap them up into a bigger organization.
Right.
And what we actually saw was that the smaller creative agencies were very, very oriented towards possibilities in the future.
Of course.
Very dynamic, very creative, basketball being played in the boardroom kind of thing. And then when the big holding company came and took them over, that was all of that present thinking and that past thinking that then would actually try to organize it, create boxes, accounting systems, accountability. And all of the future thinkers disappeared out the back door. So what you're constantly seeing was this cycle of people or organizations being bought for the brand, coming in, structured and organized, and a lot of the creative talent moving. And what was happening was because future thinkers cannot live in a box. They cannot live in a box. They hate it. They're going to run away no matter what you do. They're out the back door.